introduction, and then I'll give over to Olga. Good. Welcome to today's Satoshi 21 seminar session organized by the Bitcoin Munich community. With our events, we address not only hardcore Bitcoiners, but also more general tech audience, especially from our region. And I saw a lot of signups on Meetup, so welcome everyone in whichever way you join us. Today we will learn about RGB, a concept which started as colored coins, Bitcoin, and grew into a rich smart contracts platform that can do asset issuance and NFTs and all these kind of things too. Now there's a lot of debate in the Bitcoin community if we actually want that stuff, because 99% of such projects won't work well in the long term, to put it in a diplomatic way. But still, if it's possible, it can be built, and it should be built in a way that's scalable and more private, and also properly decentralized. And it should be built in a way that doesn't bloat the blockchain. Otherwise, you get a centralized network and high fees, or even both. I won't name any names. So in Bitcoin, there's been the Lightning Network for a while, where you can do payments instantly and with almost zero fees. And it's a layer on top of the Bitcoin blockchain. And now there can be other things too on upper layers. So we will learn about that today. And Olga has been involved in this kind of research and development area. So would you like to introduce yourself now, Olga?
Sure. Hi, and thank you very much for inviting me, first and foremost. I have been involved in Rgb project probably from like mid-2019 or so. And basically that was the point where the active development of Rgb started. So like basically I have been there since the moment the active development started. I'm the person who is doing everything but code in the project. So like social media, graphics, a lot of visuals, informational sources like RGB FAQ, YouTube channels and everything like that is being managed by me. And yeah, that's the long story short. What else? My actual background is medical, in case some people don't know. How I got into IT and into Bitcoin is a very long and complicated story. But probably the baseline would be that I have like medical system as any system. It's always been very restrictive. And as any system, it tried to, like, you either become a part of the system or you get out. So I got out, and with years, I found also that Bitcoin has the same values that not all the Bitcoin community, but Bitcoin itself as a technology and as some sort of philosophical thing is aligned with my interests and my goals, personal ones. And this is why I'm here and doing what I'm doing. And yeah, also at some point, one of the projects that I started with Maxime and a couple of other guys was actually to put the, like, to reach immortality, yeah, if we call it in a very fancy words, but to actually put the conscious and the whole being of a human into digital carrier, or vice versa. And this is why, like, I shifted from medicine to IT, then I shifted to artificial intelligence. Then I understood that artificial intelligence is actually useless because it's very much censored and it's very centralized. This is how I understood that there is such thing as Bitcoin with its values. And yeah, we got this idea to create a censorship-resistant artificial intelligence platform for different types of computations, and to eventually create the agent such as AI, because I mean, when I say AI, a lot of people that are in the field, they start laughing or throwing things, because there is no such thing as AI. There's like simple algorithms right now. And so our goal was to actually create an agent that would have its life on its own and would be sensorless, and then to create a bridge of some sort between them and us, and to eventually transform us, like to exchange and to probably create some footprint, at least a footprint of us into those agents. Yeah, so basically we started in 2017, yes, and we started, like, we understood that we needed some technology and not like SQL database for that. So basically we created the project. Well, first we created the manifesto. It's called the FreeAI Manifesto. If you're familiar or not interested or not, just let me know, I'll tell you more. Where we spoke about our principles. You can digitally sign it with your PGP if you want to. And after establishing the manifesto, we created the project, which we called Pandora. And at that point, it was called Pandora Blockchain. And we created a protocol which is called Prometheus right now.
Olga, did you already start with the presentation? Because we don't see any slides, if there are any.
No, I'm just talking too much.
But maybe you can bring them up now. So.
Okay.
Because it was anyway a soft transition from your introduction.
Well, I don't have any slides about myself, but I can probably share my screen in any case.
Yeah.
Give me a second. Sure. Yep. Do you see this?
Yeah, we can see it.
Good. So when we started the project, when we understood that we needed to have some base layer technology on which we could build ours. And at first, of course, yes, we fell for Ethereum's promise of like supercomputer, because we were thinking that we would have high load computations and we would need to perform them in a censorship resistant manner, in decentralized manner, blah blah blah. So we trusted the Ethereum claims, and then we failed. We spent some time on building our system there. But like with time, we understood that basically we were not building our project, but we were constantly managing all the dependencies that come from Ethereum, like without even talking about the JavaScript-based language that they're using and blah blah blah. It's like we're constantly working on fixing the updates and not on actually building something. So at some point we made a decision to transition to somewhere, and the somewhere at first was RSK. This is why I'm pretty much familiar with how they work. But as good as RSK claims are, they could not also provide what we needed. And like their approach into merging Ethereum technology, basically Ethereum smart contracts and approach to smart contracts with Bitcoin, was actually failed by design, as far as I can see now even. And we couldn't use that. And with time, Giacomo Zucco described the concept of RGB to us. I don't remember, I think it was like 2019. And we saw the potential of the technology. We saw the potential that we could use with time. And this is how we got involved, basically. And this is how the things got rolling. And currently, RGB is only one of the protocols that we're working on, because and it's like the more basic one, because on top of it, we will also create with time the protocol which is called Storm for storage and messaging, the Prometheus protocol, which we created back in the days, and a lot of other different stuff. But probably now I'll just get down to RGB in more details, and then if you have questions, you'll just ask them. So okay, so long story short with RSK, it's not scalable, not scalable also in terms of people working on the project. They basically have only one guy who is doing the development, and even now, as far as I know. And basically, if in Ethereum we were constantly managing the dependencies, with RSK we were actually building RSK. And still, with time, we understood that the paradigms and the approach that RSK is using is not solving our problems. So basically, we found ourselves working for RSK for free, and still our ideas were not, I mean, they were relevant to them for obvious reasons, because they don't have our goals, right? And so yeah, we basically switched to Bitcoin ecosystem. Yeah. So RGB. A bit of RGB history, like more specific than my personal one. The concept was originally proposed by Giacomo Zucca and Peter Todd a lot of years ago. It was engineered and developed by Maxim Orlovsky. Probably a lot of you guys know him. It was also supported and has been supported by Tether, by Pandora Core company, which is my company and Maxim's company, and other sponsors like Full Ventures. When we kicked off the development in 2019, Pandora Core and Maxim have been the leading technological force behind the development of RGB, and the whole initiative is governed by a non-profit association which is based in Switzerland, and it's called LNPBP Standards, where LNPBP stands for Lightning Network Protocol / Bitcoin Protocol, and it's called Standards because it's not simply an implementation of something, not just a library or anything. It's a huge thing like, I don't know, Apache Foundation. Probably you can compare Apache Foundation or Mozilla Foundation with us. So what is RGB? Definition number one. First, RGB is not a blockchain, and it's a so-called client-side validated smart contract system. It has a lot of privacy in it, and it has more privacy than a lot of blockchain-based zero-knowledge projects like Monero or I don't know who else. Anyway, it also is much more scalable, and it works because it works over P2P non-consensus networks, and it inherits this property from Lightning. It's much more safe than any blockchain-based solution because it separates a lot of levels and it doesn't mix it into one, thus making the whole system more programmable. And also, it's one of the core concepts of RGB is in having property rights and usage rights and rights itself instead of trying to solve the governance problem, because a lot of blockchain-based solutions, they constantly have the governance problem and they're trying to solve it. And we're using a very different approach. Yeah, I'll tell more about it a bit later. So RGB is not just about assets, not just about money, but it also is like just a protocol which is made by pure cypherpunk values. It is created by coders and scientists. It's not created by, I don't know, guys that are students in academia or marketing guys or business guys or whatever. It doesn't have any token. This is like one of the most common questions on where can I buy the RGB token. RGB is a protocol which does not have any token, full stop. If you meet someone who asks you when RGB token is going to be there, just answer never and tell them to forget about their Lambos. They're not getting one. RGB is 100% non-profit and open source, but still it's under MIT license project, and it is pretty much anarcho-capitalistic in its core. As I said, yeah, it's developed and maintained by Swiss Association, which is non-profit, and something like Linux Foundation or something like this. And we hope and we think that it's going to be a jungle solution to a lot of problems that we have right now. So answering the same questions, but from a different angle. So what is RGB? RGB is a client-side validated bearer rights and smart contract system, which can work both as layer 2 on top of Bitcoin and as layer 3 on top of Lightning. A lot of people ask me if RGB can work with forks of Bitcoin or with other projects. In theory, yes, but we're not going to get there. I mean, we're not going to push any development in that direction, but if someone wants to play around, they can try. So RGB works with Lightning Network and with Bitcoin. It's compared to all of other solutions, it has almost no on-chain footprint due to the client-side validated paradigm. I'll tell more about it later. It is very scalable and it scales independently from the blockchain. And it has a lot of zero knowledge and privacy-based magic. And because we reused a lot of best practices from Nimble, and Liquid. So probably before I speak about what RGB smart contract is, I will describe what a smart contract is in very simple words. So a smart I'm doing this because the way Nick Chabot described the smart contract is very different from how the knowledge of what a smart contract is currently present in the field. Due to Ethereum community basically just being a pervert of the word. This is why I'm doing this. So in very simple words, smart contract is a prearranged agreement of some trade, voluntarily trade and exchange of goods, which is automatically executed under certain conditions. And automatically here means A, anonymous, no KYC is done, and trustless. We don't need to trust the governance of the network. We don't need to trust anyone in the network. The components of a smart contract are agreement, goods, and conditions. Where agreement is the code, goods are any type of digital assets, and conditions are the contract parties, which, conditions are the code, basically, which contract parties or some external actors would be able to call in order to perform the trade. And here, when we're talking about smart contract, we need to distinguish between at least two different things. First, ownership. And we need to understand that digital assets must be always owned by some very well-defined party. So like in RGB, one of our main concepts is that the party that owns the asset or owns the rights to do something with the asset should always be very well defined. And access to some asset is also very important, because we think that only a very well-defined party should be able to call the contract execution and not let some third party or a scammer or a random observer interact with the smart contract, which they have no clue about. So why the current systems and smart contract systems are not working, actually? First and foremost, because they intermix a lot of things into one single layer, which they call blockchain as a magical thing. So they're mixing code ownership and access rights into one thing. Second point is that all of this mixing makes the technology very much unscalable and very nicely trackable, which goes, which basically ruins your privacy, because the verification that you receive the asset, or that you send the asset, or that you own the asset should be on other systems is being done not by yourself, not by the second party which you interact with, but by everyone on the whole network, which does not make much sense. The next thing that pure blockchain layer 1 solutions are failing at is trying to create the Turing-complete code, which would operate on the same level, which compromises the security of the whole network. And one of the core things, a lot of the solutions, they don't have the censorship resistance in their core. And this is why they're using different, like, proof of stakes and proof of work forks with small hashing powers, because they do not care about their system, thus the assets that you own, thus anything that's happening on the network, to be censorship resistant. So to a bit sum up here, the challenges that we have with digital assets right now are several. The first one is low scalability, because it's limited by the blockchains, and no ability to have the layer 2 assets. The second thing is the poor privacy, because in order to make the decisions and validate the information, the whole network needs to have all the information, which is wrong. And regardless what the projects say, in practice, the zero knowledge that they're using is actually nearly absent, and it does not create any privacy to some efficient level, even in projects like Monero, Green, or anything else. And last, the smart contracts that they're writing are inefficient. Asset ownership, because asset ownership is mixed with contract business logic. In fact, if you look at the systems, they are not decentralized, and they have governance problems. And the languages that they are using for writing smart contracts are not formally verified, which leads to a lot of security problems. So RGB was created to actually solve all of those issues. To some point, you can say that RGB is sharding made right, DAG made right, digital assets made right. So basically, like, whatever Ethereum community fucked up, we make it right. What is possible currently to do with RGB? Not just assets. We can yes, of course, first and foremost, you can create assets with RGB. It can be central or federated issued. It can be issued anonymously or publicly with possibility to create secondary issuance, inflation, and many different stuff. Also, I think yesterday I saw a question that, well, a remark that RGB will not be accepted, RGB assets will not be accepted anywhere and traded because there is no registry, unlike Liquid, for example, which apparently creates some questions or something. So in RGB, RGB is just a protocol. If you as an issuer want to create a registry of the assets, you can create the registry. Yeah, I'll talk about this a bit more later. So also with RGB, you can create different forms of bearer rights. Of course, you can create the non-fungible assets, like all the NFT things that are flying around, like collectibles, game skins. You can tokenize art and do a lot of actually very useful stuff with RGB in the art and NFT space. You can create decentralized digital identity with RGB. And you can finally create very complex accounting systems and pretty cool utility tokens. And all of those would be scalable, confidential. It would be working over Lightning Network. It would have the DEX functionality in it, and it would be operating as a bearer instrument. So, coming a bit closer to the RGB smart contracts in particular. So you can think of RGB smart contracts in at least 3 ways. These are just in examples. So first one, each asset, whether it's fungible or non-fungible, is issued by somebody and is a separate smart contract. You do not put a lot of stuff into one asset, one smart contract. You can also think of RGB smart contract as each root identity one is a separate smart contract. To put even more simple, like when you go to the hospital and you have a medical history of one patient, it's one smart contract. And yes, you can put that, you can create the tokenize, digitalize the medical histories using RGB and without polluting the blockchain. So RGB smart contract consists of the following things. First, it consists of a single smart contract genesis node, which is created by the issuer and only by the issuer. It commits to schema. I'll talk more about what schema is later. And it doesn't have a commitment in the Bitcoin transaction graph. Next, there is such thing as state transition. So this RGB smart contract has state transition nodes, which are created by owners during state ownership transfers, always committed into a transaction graph, and are linked to each other up to genesis using a tool. Well, it's not a tool, a primitive, cryptographic primitive called single-use seals. Also, as a scripting language, we're planning to use Simplicity scripts taken from the schema, genesis, and the direct upstream line and transitions. And the scripts extend each other according to the parent node rules. I'll talk more about the scripting also a bit further. So schema, as I mentioned it, is shared by many smart contracts, and it's basically a thing which defines the type of the smart contract. It defines the rules for client-side validation also, and wallets, exchanges, payments providers, and all other parties. They actually integrate, when they work with RGB, they integrate RGB schemata not some particular smart contracts. For instance, they would integrate the RGB 20 schema that we have, but not the use the tether itself, or not the particular asset itself. Schema is immutable, because so if you fucked up the asset by entering improper information on the schema level, you need to basically just burn the asset and create it from scratch. You cannot introduce any changes to the schema. Schema is not committed to Bitcoin blockchain because there's no point in doing so. And smart contract, which is created under some certain schema, it will include a hash of a corresponding schema, which will be a hash of data plus structure plus script. So initial list of schemas that we would have was for fungible assets, which is called RGB20, for collectibles, RGB21, for reputation or identity, 22, and etc. etc. We made the naming according to like a bit similar to Ethereum RC20, RC721, just to make them more digestible, I would say. But overall, we do have the list of schemas and standards. So basically, standard is an approach, like a standard, and schema is the implementation of the standard. If you are not satisfied with the list of schemas that we have, and you need to issue an asset or do something with RGB, which the schema that we have that do not cover, you can create your own schema and issue the asset or do whatever you want with RGB according to your needs. So if you compare Ethereum smart contracts to RGB smart contracts, you can see that the parties of the smart contract in Ethereum are very badly defined, unlike RGB. The agreement itself consists in Ethereum in blockchain stored contract and a lot of files. And in RGB, basically, we have client stored contract genesis and state transitions. The current state of the agreement in RGB is described by client stored data, which does not allow chain analysis, makes all the asset information about the asset confidential, makes the whole system scalable, and has the second layer support. I'll talk more about the EVMs later. I'm gonna skip this part. Yeah. So there are two main problems that are present right now with all these blockchains. First, they don't scale. Second one, they are transparent. And RGB solves these problems in the next way. So the first problem is solved with the approach of that there always must be an owner. And unlike Ethereum and blockchain approach, where the smart contract state is some sort of public good which everyone should verify and everyone should have all knowledge about, RGB doesn't have one, and RGB always has a very well-defined ownership party. Also, RGB defines the ownership by assigning state to Bitcoin transaction outputs using the single-use seal mechanism. And basically, whoever controls the output owns the state, say, of the asset, for example. And RGB also leverages CoinScript security model, and everything that is being rolled out, like all the improvements like Schnorr, Taproot, all of that, RGB has the support of it, and it will not require a lot of hustle in order to implement them when it's ready. The second problem is being solved by not putting the equality sign between state ownership and state validation. The ownership in RGB defines who can change the state, and validation rules define how the state can be changed, which are they're never defined in any blockchain project as far as I know. So ownership in RGB is controlled by Bitcoin script and at Bitcoin blockchain level. And validation rules are controlled by RGB schema with Simplicity script, which is semi-Turing complete, I would say. Again, which is not present and not divided in any blockchain project as far as I know. So RGB smart contracts have two main blocks. First, ownership, and the second one, state validation. The first one consists of Bitcoin script and is being ruled by Bitcoin script and script. And the second one is being defined by simplicity language and using schema. Doesn't leave any blockchain footprint, makes all the system confidential, and nearly fully Turing complete. So, summing up, the RGB smart contract is a distributed system where nobody has the complete view of the current state. So basically, even if you, as a party, need to reveal some information to some third party, you do not compromise the whole network by doing so. But RGB is still globally consistent because it uses single-use seals and it has social consensus on the same client-side validate rules on schema. And lastly, only owners have access to their own state or assets, if you wish. Plus, they only have a slice, like a piece of the state history of the whole deck, which is directly related to the own states. So as I said, as I mentioned, if you own the asset, you have the history, you have the metadata on it, you are able to validate all the information about it. If you give the asset away, if you transfer the asset to someone else, you have zero information on where it went and the future fate of the asset, which is cool. Also, I mentioned that RGB is not just about assets. RGB basically is a right management system, which happened under the smart contract. So RGB rights mean that a smart contract defines types of actions which can be taken only by a party which owns some part of the state, which means that RGB system manages the ownership of the assets, the ownership of the identity. It can manage the rights to create child identities, to prune assets, to inflate asset supply, etc., etc., etc. When we're talking about NFTs here, by the way, in NFTs, you can divide between the ownership rights and the usage rights, which are, for example, if we're talking about art or we're talking about music, very, very different things. If you want to know more, just drop me a question. So rights management under RGB smart contract defined at the schema level. Initial rights are assigned by the contract issuer in Genesis node. Rights can be transferred to new owners with state transitions. Rights ownership or state ownership is controlled with Bitcoin scripts via single-use seal mechanism. Who will be the next owner for some particular right is always defined by the party that currently has the right, the state owner. So you are as a state owner, and only you can define who will have which rights further down the road. And RGB rights management system uses the client-side validation paradigm, where rights transfers, which says that rights transfers must always be validated backwards by the new owners according to the validation rules, without leaking any private information. Yeah, basically, I think I described the right transfer enough. Probably what I need to add here is that the rights can be restricted further down the road, but not extended. And it can be done at the level of genesis in each state transition. Regarding security, we can say that in RGB, the state can be hidden, aka made confidential with zero knowledge. And which state, schema defines which state must be hidden. And you cannot redefine it further after that. If required, rights can have a shared state using the metadata. And when at the schema level, at the schema level, you need to define whether this can or cannot be allowed overall. And finally, each right does not have a direct access to the information on the state under other rights. So one person, one type of right. I'm not even sure if I need to voice out this one. I think maybe to sum up. So the schema defines types of metadata and their value restrictions, A. Schema defines types of rights and their value restrictions. Schema defines how rights transfers can be organized, like which metadata they need to provide, how the validation need to go, and everything like that. And also it defines how these rules can be further limited or extended at the level of genesis, if it's done at the level of genesis. So basically, technically wise, when we talk about RGB, we have a couple of main components of it. First, commitments in transactions, which provide unique history, and they are private. They don't take any storage, work both with layer 1 and layer 2, aka Bitcoin and Lightning Network. And all of this means that they are highly scalable. The second component of RGB is off-chain data in code held by the asset owner or the contract owner. You can use both words for this case. And again, it doesn't take any blockchain storage, and assets are always linked to transaction outputs, which define their ownership and prevent the double spending from happening. And the off-chain smart contract code defines the asset evolution itself, again, not polluting the blockchain itself. Very important to notice here that RGB schema is not a script, it's a data structure. And this data structure may or may not contain script extensions, for example, for dynamic part of the validation rules. This is why currently all the schemas and basically all of the RGB protocol is written in Rust, but recently we started, it's like very, very, very early work in progress. We started the development of contracting language for writing the schemas itself. It's not a script language. It's a data definition language, like HTML or YAML, for example. It may contain scripts for dynamic validation. Yeah, so basically, we're currently working on that also, but still most of the code is written in Rust. So also, when we are talking about RGB, recently we faced one of the problems, which is virtualization. And to close that problem, we were planning to use Simplicity, but we understood that Simplicity is not a virtual machine. It's not ready and might not even be ready in some foreseeable future. This is why we also started working on contracting language. And we also compared other available virtual machines, and basically none of those fit our need. This is why, again, very heavy, very early work in progress, but we are working on creating our own virtual machine, and it's called Alluvium from Arithmetic Logic Unit. I'm not going to dive into technical details here. If you want to know more, there's a link, and you can check it out. So going back to probably some more high-level stuff, if a lot of people often ask, like in simple words, how RGB is different from other existing projects. So compared to liquid confidential assets, RGB does work with Lightning Network. RGB replaces large Boroman signature proofs with pollute proofs. Even compared to liquid confidential assets, RGB does not consume the time chain space that much. While confidential assets is only about assets, RGB is a universal smart contract system which is much larger, and it does not require federation to run it. If you compare RGB to more commonly known, I want to say, projects like Omni or Colored Coins Card Party, A, we have much higher privacy. B, we work with Lightning Network without the modifications of the Lightning Network itself, without the modifications required to be made in the Lightning Network, like this. And we don't consume the space that much. Comparing to Ethereum, EOS, or other stuff, RGB is not a blockchain, and RGB works on and with Bitcoin. And it's, yeah, basically we inherit from Bitcoin the censorship resistance feature, which other blockchains don't have. A lot of people ask us, but OmniBolt has the same functionality that you guys do, so basically how are you different, especially when we're talking about the Lightning part. So OmniBolt actually breaks the Bolt message compatibility. It breaks transaction structure compatibility. It doesn't have any backports from LND. It doesn't have any TLV extensions. It requires only Omni Core backend, and it cannot work with just Bitcoin Core, for example. And finally, it requires separate nodes for OmniBolt and Bitcoin Lightning, which is not that of a project for us, problem for us. If you think about RGB and other block Bitcoin technologies, as I mentioned, we can work, we can leverage and we can work with Taproot and Schnorr. We are interoperable with Liquid, actually. We do not require changes to Lightning Network layer. Yeah, we have the unified invoicing proposal, which works for basically RGB, Bitcoin, and Lightning at the same time. And RGB can work with existing node implementations, but when the node implementers would be willing to basically add the support of RGB. But currently, we also have our own nodes implemented in Rust. And if you want to, you can check them out. We have all the repositories. If you're interested, I'll send over the links. So speaking about what RGB actually has now, because a lot of people think that we have nothing, so there's an RGB FAQ website, if you don't know, and there is a page on it The page is called Getting Familiar with RGB. And here you can find basically all of the main things that we have right now. We have a list of videos that you can start with if you're going into, if you're diving into the RGB technologies. All of the videos are on our YouTube channel. Just find it. This one. Yep. So check out all of these videos. We have playlists, we have demos here, we have presentations, and a lot of various different stuff. So feel free to check it out. These videos are made, like the slides from these videos are uploaded here, which is the repository of the main GitHub organization. Boom. I'll send over all the links with time, so don't freak out. I'll send everything. Talking about RGB itself, there is a separate GitHub organization with all the codes, the core library, the RGB node itself, the repository with the contracting language that I mentioned, the RGB SDK, which you can use for integration with wallets and exchanges and like different kinds of stuff. You have the FAQ and like various other different stuff. Also, like I mentioned, the RGB FAQ website itself, you can surf through the topics. Not everything is here yet, but probably one of the most interesting things is this one. It's basically all the developer calls that we have with the links to, with the agenda described, with the links to the repositories, the videos, the presentations, and everything like that. So check this out. Also, right now, we have already, I probably can say 3 projects running RGB. So the first one is the Bitcoin Pro. It's the product, it's the asset issuance and management tool created by my company, Pandora Core. And basically it works with Ubuntu, it works with macOS. It's opened, so feel free to check out the repo and start playing around with it. I'll show some information on it a bit later. There is an RGB-enabled wallet, which is called MyCitadel. The code is also here, so check this out. Here you also have the test flight. It works only for iOS devices right now, unfortunately, but we're working on the Android one. So if you want to touch RGB assets, click on the test flight link, install the app, and yeah, have fun and send the feedback. Also, there is the RGBX. It's the Rgb Explorer that we built. Basically here you can see the amount of issuers, the amount of assets that were issued. And these issuers are those that themselves put the information about the assets here. So it's not like the default preset. If you do not want this information to be present anywhere, it will not be there. So we have here 3 issuers that published information on 8 assets. When you click on the asset, you can see the allocations. You can scan the QR code here and through, for example, MyCitadel wallet, and you'll get the wallet, you'll get the asset, and you'll be authorized to receive the asset if you scan this, and then you'll be able to receive the asset itself. So yeah, just come over, play around with all this. It's gonna be fun. Moving forward, You have seen already this slide. I'm not going to repeat it. I'm hoping that you already understood that RGB is not just about assets. So why we're doing all this, making one step back again. So we understand that we need, especially now in these days of the surveillance and everything. Yes, I will post the slides. I think someone is asking about that. During our times, it's highly, we really need to protect our privacy, and we need to do it properly. Because very often when I meet, for example, with people who are working with zero knowledge, they are basically admitting that they are building the systems which are very private to everyone except for the government or some, I don't know, special services in military facilities, which is basically putting the backdoors into the system which you claim is private, which basically does not protect you anyhow. RGB also wants to bring more scalability to all the solutions that we have now, because, for example, if you want to create censorship-resistant computations, whether that be a chatbot or you want to process your biohacker and you want to process a huge sequence, like genome sequence, for example, on your laptop, you need to be able to do it in a private way, and you need the system that you're running to be very scalable for that, without having any dependencies, thus being peer-to-peer. Also, RGB's mission is to bring more safe programmability to the actions of an actor, because we do separate a lot of things that usually are intermixed, and when things are intermixed, no one can actually, like, everyone has information on everything, and there is like a huge possibility of creating backdoors if you're building systems on top of such system to break the system, and everything like that. And as I mentioned before, we do put the emphasis on the ownership rights, on the ownership and on the individual, instead of trying to solve the governance of the network problem, which seems to be, like, for us, it seemed to be a pretty common thing, thing to follow and to work with. But for some reason, for other people, it's pretty hard to to make this mind shift from one thing to another. When we're talking about, like, how to work with RGB, how to bring more adoption to it, how to integrate with it, first and foremost, yes, RGB is open, and whoever can understand it can work with it, but knowing how not brilliant people working for the government are, I think RGB, it's gonna take them a while to, like, shift from zero knowledge based blockchains to RGB, and I'm not sure if they are even gonna do it. So how are we helping others to actually work with RGB? First, we have not just created the protocol itself. We created the implementations of the nodes, but also we are creating the user-face and dev-facing tools like SDKs and a lot of other different stuff. It doesn't mean that you can only work with, like, currently, yes, you can only work.
Oh, now she's gone. Trying to get her back. One moment. Yeah, I don't know. I don't get any response, but maybe somebody has a question and somebody who's actually deep in the project. I think there are some people here can also take some questions.
Was he willing to do a demo as well? Ah, there's Olga again.
Okay. Can you speak again, Olga, so that we know we can hear you?
Seems like she's still muted.
Not anymore.
Okay.
Mm.
So, after brief interruption.
Yeah. So again, enforcing the adoption, we're also building tools that would enable other people to build commercial products on top of the protocol, and to finally start building real capitalism instead of simply coding and doing nothing. This is why for that we have the following things. A, we have the core libraries that you can check out and you can use them for your projects. And as far as I know, like last week, it was a huge surprise for me to know that there is a project who is creating swaps between, I think it was between Monero and Bitcoin or something. And they are actually reusing the parts of the code that we have created, which was pretty fun. And also, if you see the code and if you have any questions on the code, feel free to ask them. So next, we have two other core libraries, which is the RGB core library and LNP core library. And there are two implementations of the corresponding nodes that you can use for your project. There's also a descriptor wallet library. Check that out. We tried to reuse the existing descriptors libraries, but we failed on trying to do it, and basically it was easier for us to create our own than to constantly try to bring the existing ones onto the level that we needed. Of course, we always leave everyone the freedom to create their own tools, even commercial ones. Everything is MIT licensed, and if you want to contribute, it's open. Just feel free to do it. And when we have the RGB beta in summer already working, but a lot of people still did not trust us that RGB actually works. And this is why Pandora 4 started creating actual user-facing products on top of RGB, thus showing that RGB is viable. Yes, it's on testnet. You need to be too reckless currently to work on mainnet. Like, disclaimer, do not do it, at least for now. But if you want to play around with RGB through user-facing products, feel free to use those too. So what are the projects? The products. The first one is Bitcoin Pro that I mentioned. It's MIT licensed also, and it works for asset issuance and management. When I say asset here, I mean both Bitcoin, Lightning, and RGB assets. Not only RGB assets. It's written in Rust. It works for basically all desktop platforms, and it's GDP plus based. The second tool is the Citadel SDK. It's the SDK for wallet developers that do not want to spend a lot of time into understanding how RGB works, how all the nodes work there, how the Lightning node works, and blah, blah, blah. And they want to reduce the time and effort into integrating with the with RGB. You guys can use the Citadel SDK, and there is like a huge suite of MyCitadel products, like wallet application, which will be like private cloud and like we'll have a lot of different stuff by the end of this year, so stay tuned. This is how the Rust-based Bitcoin project looks like. So if it doesn't scare you, feel free to go there to go to the repository, and there's also a demo on the YouTube channel that I showed some time ago. Feel free to install it. Feel free to touch it, to play around with it, and send us the feedback. We're really looking forward to it. We're working on adding more functionality to it. Like you can see here, identities, audit logs, operations, and a lot of different stuff. Currently, not all of them are working because we just released this, but still, it works. It's fun. Go for it. The MyCitadel wallet on iPad looks like this. You can see the accounts. These are the accounts. You can see the balance. You can see a lot of different information. And basically, if you have an iOS device, just go to the test flight, install it, and play around with it. On mobile, it will look like this. So there's a lot of information, but probably for those of you who are more convenient to understand RGB through the user-facing applications, maybe these two applications would help you a lot instead of trying to dig into technical documentation or whatever. So in order
Ja, weil es rüberkommt aus Amerika.
Was kommt
Please, we can.
Was rüberschickt?
what the fuck?
We can hear you. One moment.
Jetzt haben wir eine zweite Bestellung gemacht. Mit Ikea.
Hey!
Und so. Und nochmal jetzt noch.
Okay.
Okay.
I think you can continue.
Okay. So I'm gonna wrap this up pretty fastly. So Citadel has the API, has a lot of native libraries. It's MIT licensed. It can be used for personal use, for enterprise, blah, blah, blah. So just try it out. If you are the wallet developer, these are 4 options of how you can create the wallet using the MyCitadel SDK. Very scary slides, very colorful ones, so I'll post the slides
Hello,
online.
Alive?
I hope so.
I'm here.
Yeah. This is.
I'm not getting any sound either.
Hi.
Okay, now let's continue. I think it should work now again. We had what about there was some noise and didn't know where it was coming from, but now it should be fine again.
So beyond RGB, we're also working on many other different stuff. And one of that stuff is actually rebuilding the internet according to normal cypherpunk principles, which are censorship resistant and all private and all other that you probably know. And we call this initiative Internet 2, which will be basically interoperable with everything that we're building thus far. I already told you about the Rgb Explorer, so you can go and just check it out. As I mentioned, you can see the RGB assets there, including the NFTs. I didn't mention the Bifrost infrastructure protocol that we're going to have, but I think it's going to be too much still. And Rgb Explorer would be the playground for RGB-based identity management also. Finally, if you are a Rust developer or Android developer, feel free to reach out. We probably need you. So yeah, if you know Rust or you want to code in Rust, please come on board. We are the dark side and the very toxic one of the whole Bitcoin community. We will love it. And if you know Kotlin and Jetpack Compose, drop me a message. We need to talk. If you have some money, we have a lot of options to drop them. And finally, that's it.
Yeah, great presentation, Olga. Thanks for your talk. And we have surely time for questions. So go ahead if you have questions.
Could you do a demo, Olga?
Excuse me?
Could you do a demo with?
Well, taking into account that I'm lagging very much, it can probably be not the best idea.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. Also, the demo of what exactly? I mean,
well, for example, create an asset and send it around from a transaction output. I can do it, but I stuck somewhere as well. So at the last step to send the assets around, it's not working for me. So let's hoping that you are doing a demo to see what I'm doing wrong.
probably I need to check that out. But again, like currently, I'm afraid that if I start like do the demonstration, my internet connection will just fall off.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but maybe Perry can do the demo and
Yeah, I can try it. Of course, that you can see. Then I have to start up some things quickly. So give me 1 minute when you like it, but others like it as well. Is that an idea?
yeah.
Yeah, why am I typing? So, how big is the RGB community right now? The Telegram, yes, the Telegram group has 831 members right now. On the GitHub, I think on YouTube, we have like 261 subscribers or something like that. We have 22 different members of the association and like a lot of different contributors. So it depends on what you mean about the RGB community. And it's a part of the community that I know about and I'm curating that. Maybe there are some others, but I have no clue about them. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you don't start with. Okay, I have something prepared. Is it okay? I'll share my screen.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Let me see. This one. Share. You see this? So you see here the Electrum is running on testnet, and everything is working from the transaction outputs. So here you have your transaction outputs. So what we do actually is we make a connection, first of all, from Bitcoin Pro to the Electrum. And for that, we need the master public key. We copy this one here. And we create a new configuration. For example, company demo. And here we put in the master key. It has a custom index 0. So when we walk now to the addresses, we can step to the addresses. These are the same addresses as we have in the Electrum. Those addresses are corresponding to this one. right? So we save this. This is the first step that you have to do, make connection to your output. And then, where is it now? Here. Okay, then the next step is we make a descriptor. And the descriptor, we make descriptor. And we select the configuration we have created in the first step. And now we can create, let me see, that one, here we can create, oh, sorry, we have to find the keys. 20 keys. Here we have the outputs, the transaction outputs, which we can use later on in the next step when we create assets. So when we have that done, we can go to assets. Now we create an asset. And we said here, for example, let's call them whatever. XIZ token or asset, whatever you want to name it. And here we renumber it, and we select one transaction output to connect this asset to. Boom. We can select another one to burn it. Select the second one. Boom. And now we can create here tokens. And now maybe I go wrong here, but I can select a third one. Select. I need a little big. And now we can make, for example, 230,000 tokens. And create this. Now we have here a token. And now when I pick up, I shall stop sharing now with my window and I share my webcam, because I pick up now my iPad and start the MyCitadel. What is it? MyCitadel wallet. Start here the MyCitadel wallet. Oh, moment.
It's too bright.
Wait, moment. Here's the MyCitadel wallet. Here you have all kind of other tokens. Yeah. But there is a QR code shooter on it. So when I select the QR code shooter, and I shoot now the QR code. So this way, sorry. Bang. Yeah. Then I have here the descriptor in an iPad, and I do import. Bang. And now I have the XIZ token. And now my question to Olga is, how can I send them around? XIZ token, because I have 0 tokens now in it. So here I'm stuck with it, Olga. How to go further?
Submit a bug.
Huh?
I mean, you need to find a person who, well, you need to find someone who would want, which problem, which error do you have?
Actually, no error. I don't, the amount of tokens I created, it's not coming over in the wallet. So probably I have to do another step, so I can. You
mean the amount is not imported in the wallet?
Yeah.
Yeah, we know. So there was a bug, and we're fixing it right now. I know about that.
Okay.
Yeah, on import there is a bug.
Yeah. Okay. Then that's not a problem from my side. I was thinking.
Yeah, we know about that bug. Though, I mean, just for the purpose of the proper queuing engineering protocol, can you create an issue like with bug type or something, where you describe which you're actually doing and at what point the error occurs and what point something goes
Okay.
wrong.
Yeah.
Because like with Bitcoin Pro, for example, we have the same error which appears in many different circumstances, and it's like a floating bug which we cannot even like I asked Maxime recently and he fixed that for himself some time ago, and now he doesn't remember how actually he fixed that. So people keep asking like random, they keep receiving the same error but under different conditions. And currently I need to understand what the conditions are and where the problem might be in order to fix it once and forever. And the
Okay.
same thing goes